Okay, so we're live from Austin, Texas, from the Imagine Solar Training Center. My name is Michael Kuhn, and Doug Schoister, senior instructor and master of many things. And a lot of you already know who we are, but briefly, I'm the founder and CEO of Imagine Solar. And the combination of my experience and Doug's experience is hugely complementary. Doug is currently NAVSAT certified. I used to be NAVSAT certified. I'm waiting to get my NAVSAT certification emeritus status, but Doug's been more recently involved in actual PV system design and installation than I have. I kind of date back a while, and so mine expired. But we've both been involved in actually putting together proposals for PV systems. And we've helped out a lot of entrepreneurs and other contractors. We've worked on large proposals for utility scale projects. And myself, I've been involved in a lot of the public policy making. In fact, I served as a commissioner for the city of Austin to actually start the very first solar incentive program in the state of Texas, which was not as easy as you might think, but it took us well over a year to actually do the advocacy work to actually get that program started, and that is what we have today as your City of Austin Energy Program. And subsequent to that, there's a lot of incentive programs throughout Texas. Our course is not limited to Texas. We're going to be talking about principles and practices in PV economics and technical sales that's applicable across the United States. And so let's get started. We're going to start with some industry update slides, and Doug's going to be doing the annotation, and I'll speak to some of the first slides, and I'll be turning it over to Doug. Doug, you want to say any welcoming comments?
Yeah, so welcome to the course. I know, I think I've met a few of you personally, and for those that haven't, again, as Mike said, my name is Doug Soyster. I've experienced both in installation and sales for PV. By now, I think a lot of you should have been emailed your course registration information. So before we get started, I wanted to go ahead and kind of walk you through what our online e-learning course. So this is at the website elearning.imaginesolar.com. So the course, is structured to go over the span of 8 weeks. So we're going to be meeting each Tuesday night at 6 o'clock. We're going to cover sort of the topic of the week. We're going to look at some of the resource. We're going to have some lecture material, go over some exercises. And in the coming nights, we're going to actually, assign some assignments. Tonight, really, we're going to be doing some additional reading. In coming weeks, I'm actually going to have you sort of task you with finding out information, answering some questions, or performing some exercises. Ultimately, this is all going to culminate in the 8th week, where your sort of final assignment that you will submit to us is actually generating a PV proposal. And so as we go through the course, we're going to sort of open up the various course sections and stages. So if you log on today and through tonight, what you'll see is the introductory header here. You'll see section 1, which is what we're going to sort of start to get into tonight. And then we give you a look at section 2, which is actually going to be sort of next week's topic. But we want to go ahead and open it up, show you some of the resources and material in there. And as we do these live sessions, they will be recorded, and that'll allow you, if you miss one or you have some technical difficulty hearing us or logging in, or you get dropped, you'll be able to get an edited, cleaned up version of the video, our presentation, everything in the audio uploaded. So it takes us a little bit of time to compile that, but within a couple of days of each session, you'll be able to see the video. So this week, tonight's video lecture recording will populate in section 1 of the online class here. We'll continue to kind of be getting familiar with with the web page and with the website. One thing I do want to point out, and definitely make sure that you avail yourself of, is the ability to ask questions. You can actually access here through on the left hand side for activities. You can go to the forum, and you can find general news and announcements, and you can also go access me as an instructor. And you can actually get my email, and you can actually send messages to me. So either via email or via the messages through Moodle, which will actually land in my email inbox. You can ask questions through any part of the course, and I check my email all throughout the day. So if I see somebody from our 250 class come up, I usually jump right on it and try to get you a quick response. Failing that, if you want to wait and ask your question during one of these nightly sessions, that's another great idea too. In fact, what we anticipate is that we're going to be doing a mixture of, going through pre-prepared material and going through some of the exercises and the material for that week, but also mixing in some question and answer sessions. That's going to be, questions from you, the audience, and then we can address them, make sure everybody understands the materials being presented. So if you haven't yet accessed the online Moodle page, the e-learning site, that's okay. You can get to it any time this week. If you have any issues with that, definitely give us a phone call, shoot us an email. We'll help you get it straightened out. Just for tonight, we'll just be tuning into the broadcast. The lecture material that you're going to see today has been uploaded. And it will be available for your review later once you log on to the site. And that'll be the case with anything that we do. If we bring up any kind of resource or material, we'll always make sure to provide either a link to that, if it's like an external resource on a different web page, or if it's a document or a presentation, we'll upload that to make sure that you've got the source material for everything that we're going to go over. So what tonight's topic is looking at basically kind of PV markets, is what we're going to get into covering. There's some additional source material that we'll point out online, but we've put together this, and there's a copy of this available on the e-learning site. So I'll start off by kind of passing it over to Mike to lead us off on this topic, and so Mike, it's to you.
Okay, thank you, Doug. So, industry update. Some of you that tuned in during our kind of intro sessions over the last couple of weeks, you've seen some of these slides already. For the rest of you, these are new, so let's go over them again. This is showing how much solar capacity has been installed in the United States each year. And you see that the industry didn't really take off until about, half a decade ago, because we had some in 2003, and so that was the beginning of grid tied. Prior to that, almost all solar was off-grid. It was space applications, it was remote sites, and very little of actual, tie it to the grid type of a solar PV. And we were excited when we were given this kind of presentation, like back in 2006, because what we were seeing was like 100% increase in the amount of solar being installed every 2 years. And so when you look at the numbers, you see that 2005 is twice what 2003 was. And then you see that 2007 was twice what 2005 was. And then we were really excited about the year 2008, because 2008 meant that the amount that was done in that year was double what happened the previous year. So we went from a doubling of every 2 years to doubling in just 1 year. So the chart had a very different scale, and those years, 2003 through 2008, were showing kind of this bar chart that was up and away. Well, now those years look very small compared to most recent history. Things have really taken off in 2010, 2011, and 2012, and continued to take off in 2013. So we've got 2013 numbers that just came through this past month, and there was a 41% increase over 2012. Double-digit growth in the actual amount of solar that was installed in that particular year. So this is not cumulative numbers for the United States. This is actually what's happening every single year. And you see that a lot of utility scale capacity came online in the last 3 years, and non-residential, or call it commercial, but still the residential market has continued to see growth as well. And I love this statement from SEIA, the Solar Energy Industry Association, that more solar has been installed in the United States in the last 18 months than in the previous 30 years combined. Next slide. Okay, so now what we're looking at is not capacity, but the actual number of installations. And so you see a big change when you're looking at utility versus non-residential versus residential. And you see that in terms of the number of projects, residential exceeds all the other projects out there. So while there's a lot of capacity for utility scale projects, it's residential is where you have all the action in terms of number of installations, number of proposals, number of customers, number of crews designing and installing these PV systems. Now we've got a cumulative chart. So this is showing U.S. grid-connected solar PV installations where each year's capacity is added on to all the previous year's capacity. And you see this exponential kind of curve taking place. So by the end of 2013, nearly 13 gigawatts cumulative of solar has been installed in the United States. Enough to power the 2.2 million homes. Now, that's fine. Now, that number, however, still is a tiny fraction of the electric generating capacity in the United States. So solar is still down in the single digits in terms of a percentage of a capacity, and there's still quite a long ways to go. Next slide shows what states are in the top 10, and California leads the way with 2,559 megawatts, and these are 2012 numbers, so this is cumulative. So California has 35% of all the U.S. solar projects to date, followed by Arizona and New Jersey. Now, what's interesting about this is what you're seeing is California got a very early start, and there's been a lot of capacity that's been done there. And the other states haven't had that nearly as much capacity put in place yet. A state like Texas still has a long ways to go. We were in the top 10 prior to this year, prior to 2012. And we'll get to the Texas numbers in the next slide or so.
And I think an interesting takeaway here is to look at the fact that of all the solar growth, all the solar activity and the industry movement, all that capacity really has been installed in about just 3 states. About 2/3 of all PV capacity. 2/3 of all PV capacity has actually been installed in just 3 states: California, Arizona, and New Jersey. So what that really speaks to is that, in terms of, is there any sense of the market getting saturated, or is there any sense of there already being sort of enough PV? Certainly not. Certainly not even inside some of these states, and certainly in the rest of the country. they're really just getting started. And a lot of these, particularly, we see a lot of very big states. Texas, obviously, is a good example. States like Florida, states like Virginia, a lot of big populous states are barely on the map with solar. And really what that means is that there's a lot of upside. There's a lot of potential for solar as its costs come down to kind of continue to make inroads throughout the rest of the country.
Yeah, and the other thing to notice is that it's not just the Southwest. And this is something that we're going to be talking about in this course. New Jersey is number 3 because of the cost of electricity in New Jersey. So it's not just where is the great solar resource, but it also is relative to how much do you have to pay for electricity, state by state, jurisdiction by jurisdiction. And the other, so it's the solar resource, the cost of electricity, and the incentives. New Jersey's had a very healthy incentive program at the state level, and they used to have an excellent secondary market in what are called solar renewable energy credits.